So good news.
We're in Brian's house. Oh, wait.
Hang on.
That's not good news. What's the good news? Is there good news?
New episode. No other good things. Is Micah alive?
I don't know.
They haven't killed any of the guest characters yet at the till the beginning. I mean till the end, but I don't know.
Is there no like hotel manager at the hotel? Like, you know, usually you check into a place, there's like a person on site. Is anyone called the police on all the weird things that we've been doing in our hotel? Like, every game we play?
So far, we have no evidence that anyone else is staying in that motel. And I don't know if we've even... Did we even have a scene of checking in? Or
There's no
just
scene,
show up?
but there's an implication that there's a person there that is supposed to be on site.
I don't know.
It's like, it's a job people have.
Maybe there's just always a hotel. Chase. I hear my name once again and lean forward, only to find my head pounding and something metal around my neck. Chase. Again, my name is spoken, the voice a coarse rasp that sounds somewhat familiar. I blink several times, trying to get the blurriness to leave my eyes. They feel puffy, like I'd been crying a lot. Sure enough, as I touch my cheeks, I can feel wet stains. I must have wept while I was out. Finally, my vision clears enough that I can get a read of my surroundings. It's some kind of trailer, with trash and stained clothing scattered about everywhere. Most of it's beer bottles and old TV dinner packages, with a few stacks of vintage science magazines and newspapers along the back wall. Dishes and junk are piled high along the length of the counter, and it smells like cigarette smoke. Brian must have brought me here. Maybe this is his place? As the reality of the situation sinks in, I quickly try to stand up, but the sudden tugging on my throat pulls me back down. I clutch at it, and realize it's some kind of metal collar which is keeping me pinned to the wood-paneled wall.
Oh, like last time.
Chase. This time I turn and crane my head back to identify the source.
Carl! Oh, this is where Carl's been.
Carl was kidnapped the whole time.
Oh no.
That's extremely bad.
It's been like fucking days he's been here.
My heart leaps but stops cold once I notice the position he's in. The ram's on some kind of table, with bindings around his neck, wrists, and fetlocks.
Fetlocks?
I think that's his ankles, but he's got like hooves or whatever. That's bad. So he's on the choking table that we were on.
Oh, Carl.
The ram cranes his neck in what looks like a painful fashion to look at me. His eyes are puffy and bloodshot, far beyond his usual pink-hued, drug-induced haze. He's been crying. A lot. Carl! I exclaim, my voice a half-whisper, half-shout. What's going on?
Are you really Chase?
His voice is weak, cracking with each enunciation. I can see the veins in the ram's neck bulge through his thin fur when he tries to speak. What? Of course it's really me. Did Brian nab you too? Shakily, the ram nods his head, his horns making clacking noises against the wooden table.
It's all a fucking nightmare, dude. I can't tell what's real anymore. Everything's fuzzy.
He squeezes his fists, then wrenches his wrists back, trying to worm his way out of the bindings.
He keeps coming by and tightening the wrap around my neck, until, like, I can only get a tiny bit of air. After a few minutes, I start to see lights popping, and everything goes dark and grainy. Over and over again.
It's at that point I notice that there's something hanging above him on the ceiling. A mirror. Ornately framed with gold-colored trim and pinned up with rusty metal stakes. It's so starkly fancy and out of place, considering the rest of the trashy interior. Jesus. I strain against the collar around my neck, trying to get a better look at my bindings. It's hard to see, but this collar looks like it's bolted to the wood-paneled walls on both sides of my neck. Haphazardly, too, as it jiggles whenever I shift too hard. At the same time, the edges of the collar are not exactly smooth. I feel like if I yanked too quickly, the metal would cut into my own neck.
Are the cops coming? I want to go home, man.
I share the sentiment, though right now I'm just trying to get my bearings. The edge of my forehead where Brian hit me throbs with pain every couple of seconds. There's no air conditioning in here either, and I can't help but feel like I'm sitting in a hot car that smells like a dumpster. There's a pungent aroma of body odor mixed in with something kind of like rotting fruit. Every breath I take just brings more of that scent into me, until I can practically taste it on my tongue. I don't know. I finally respond. Carl's heart visibly sinks, his eyes darting around the room before finally settling on something to my right.
Leo?
I blink, and delicately try to turn my head to peer beside me. Crumpled on the floor and bound in a similar type of bondage to my own is Leo, still unconscious. His lip is split, and a little bit of blood is pooled into the gray carpet. Fortunately, he's still breathing, that big chest of his rising and falling in a slow rhythm. It looks like he struck that earlier, mainly on his muzzle. Hopefully that means his head itself didn't take too much of the brunt, which undoubtedly would worsen the hell out of his concussion. Leo, wake up. I hear him grunt softly, like I had just disturbed him from a pleasant nap. His eyes already seem like they're half open, so whether he's truly sleeping right now isn't clear. Stretching out, I can barely manage to nudge him with the tip of my tail. Leo, come on. Another soft groan.
He looks beat up.
Carl rasps. Yeah, Brian beat him pretty bad. Twice.
Oh.
Orange-tinted sunlight seeps in from beneath the slats of the closed blinds across the room. It must still be daytime out, but only barely. I wonder why Jenna isn't here. Maybe she got away?
Oh no.
Outside, there's a pronounced puttering noise drawing closer. It vibrates the room we're in slightly, and there's the faint noise of oldies music that carries on along with it. I mean, at this point, you hope Jenna got away because someone needs to be able to do anything about this.
Yeah.
Last time Kudzu saved us, and he's not even in the story.
Oh no.
A car. Maybe an old pickup truck. Carl goes quiet, listening as well. Next, voices. They sound terse, argumentative.
Going after your fucking sister?
One says, high-pitched and painted.
Oh.
And pained.
I think it was actually Brian. They brought it on themselves.
Clint. Leo was right. He was involved. Fucker. What do you think he's gonna do to him? Jeremy's voice comes through less annoyed than the other two. I think both lines were by Clint, because I think Brian is still chasing Jenna.
Oh,
going
yeah.
after your fucking sister.
Yeah.
Jeremy's voice comes through less annoyed than the other two. He sounds almost afraid.
The same thing you did to Keith, you mangy fuck.
That high-pitched voice. It's Micah. Well, fuck, at least he's alive. You don't know that.
Yeah, shut the fuck up, Micah. Don't disrespect him with this sort of conspiracy shit now. You done screwed several pooches, and I ain't covering for you. You don't know shit.
I can hear another car pull up, this one with a much quieter engine. Carl visibly tenses, seemingly recognizing the sound.
It's him, dude.
A car door slams and the voices silence.
Hello there. Bit of a day, huh?
The silence continues for a while until Brian speaks up again.
After you.
Clint makes a little and the door to the room we're in opens. The ringtail enters, his composure far more timid than I'm used to. He blinks when he sees Leo and I bound to the wall, staring at the two of us wordlessly.
Go on. What was it that you were gonna tell me?
Brian enters in after him, the hulking bear having to duck to fit through the doorway. Carl quickly closes his eyes, trying to pretend he's asleep. The bear's focus remains entirely upon Clint, with Clint looking like he's practically withering under his gaze.
I think Duke said he was gonna be here in a couple minutes. Apparently folks are gathering at town hall wondering what's going on.
The bear glances back over his shoulder, then extends an arm out through the doorway, grabbing something. I struggle to turn my head enough to see what.
Let go!
Well, that's a lot of fucking characters. This is like 8 or 9 characters. Jenna's tone is cold, completely curt despite the circumstances. Fortunately, she doesn't look too beaten up beyond her fur being a little tousled. Brian's holding her by the arm, and tightly, judging by the wince in her face. Her stony demeanor visibly fades as she sees the three of us bound up.
This is barbaric. I don't think he fucking
I don't
cares,
think he cares.
Jenna.
No. Brian ignores her comments, dragging her across the stained carpet to an old radiator in the corner. With some errant chain, he gets to work tying her to it. She seems to be getting spared the neck choker treatment.
You mentioned that there was others with him? The cat boy and the mayor's cocksucking nephew, right?
Did we know that Flynn was specifically the mayor's nephew?
I don't think we knew that until right now. It makes sense why he got that political position.
Like, we know what his job is, yeah.
Yeah. TJ and Flynn, yeah. Flynn, right. I know him. He's the one with the big bottom.
Clint rubs his scabbed arms, looking anywhere but Brian.
Does Flynn have a big ass? Like, I've never
I don't know,
noticed.
does he?
I don't know.
Is the lizard caked?
I don't know. I can't. We haven't seen.
He quickly tries to shift the direction of the conversation.
Duke was talking about them. Do you want us to bring them in too? Because they got some incriminating stuff on their phones. That works for me. Little Jerry, what you doing out there? Bring in the last one.
Sure enough, Jeremy sheepishly enters the room with his paw on Micah's shoulder. The bat is trembling, walking with a limp and a swollen nose. Jeremy looks directly at Jenna for a moment, a flicker of shock on his face at seeing her and the rest of us in such a sorry state.
You guys are such shit. It's finally happening, and you all are gonna turn on me just like that, succumb to it.
Hey man, you're the one who started trying to kill our boss with a wrench. Sounds an awful lot like succumbing to it to me.
He killed Keith.
Dude, no he didn't. You're just hallucinating. Brian lets out an indiscernible noise from the other side of the room, finishing up some bindings around Jenna's ankles. Brian seems like he's in his element, as if this whole kidnapping business is about as strenuous as a trip for groceries.
No.
However, the mention of Keith does elicit a visible tensing of the bear.
Don't appreciate that kind of disingenuous assertion.
Just someone casually mass murdering people all the time, but not that one specifically.
Yeah.
How dare you think such a thing?
Yeah, I mean, how dare you assume just because I kill other people, I'd kill another one? Like, what are you thinking?
Look, you just need to chill out here. Smoke some weed or something. That's the trick to make it go away, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. We're all gonna get real high and ride it out, little fellas.
Brian smiles, showcasing his broken teeth.
You ain't got nothing to fret over.
What does everyone else think is going to happen today? Because I don't think Brian has the same plan that everyone else thinks is going to happen.
I don't know what any of them are planning on. Like, what are they trying to achieve with any of this?
Yeah.
Who's any person here? Like, all
I'm
these
just thinking, like,
here.
their relationship's not good, but I would like to think Jeremy is not in favor of Jenna having, like, going through what we know people around Brian go through. So he probably doesn't really know.
I hope he doesn't know.
Yeah. So I don't know I would, because I see the number of people involved. I'm like, there's got to be, like, surely some kind of, like, resistance will happen here. But I don't know what the fuck anyone's planning. The rotund Fennec pulls out a phone from his pocket, one that looks a lot like the burner Micah showed me earlier. Still can't get a hold of Heather. We gotta look for her too, man. Clint, who had been unusually quiet, snaps to attention as he realizes Jeremy is talking to him.
We'll check her pa's place then.
Oh, you're going there?
Oh, that's me.
Take Carl with you.
No, that's me.
I might need... Oh, shit. Everyone has a gray name.
I know,
it
honestly is...
They gave up on giving the side characters colors.
Oh, you're going there? Take Carl with you. I might need the rack. Only been a few days and I've almost gotten trained already. No! Trained? Shouldn't be too much of a flight risk.
I look at Carl, who's still trying to pretend he's asleep.
Oh, poor Carl.
He's not doing a very good job, as I can still see his legs shaking. Not that I'd be able to do any better in his position. Clint, without a word, moves to the table and unfastens each strap and buckle as if he were personally familiar with each. He pulls at the ram's soiled and slightly bloody tank top.
Come on.
He mutters. Carl complies, his fetlocks nearly buckling beneath him as his hooves touch the ground for the first time in a long while. He doesn't dare look at the rest of us, keeping his gaze down.
Good boy.
Brian rumbles, grinning to himself. Carl flinches. Clint pulls something that shimmers in the faint light out of the back of his pants. It takes me a minute to realize it's a gun. He presses the metal of the barrel against the ram's spine, his lanky finger hovering over the trigger. As I see the ringtail step around and push open the door, I notice Carl's not the only one shaking now. Clint's own hand shivers fiercely, like any second he might accidentally squeeze his finger back. I try not to make any sudden noises, keeping my already strained breath shallow. This is so fucked. The two shuffle out without further word. Jeremy moves to follow them, but hesitates for a moment, looking back at Jenna. Jazz, just wait this out, yeah? I'll be...
Just go.
Jenna seethes, her words like ice. It's as if any more of the fat Fennec's rationalizing would make her physically ill. Jeremy thins his lips, standing there a bit gormless, like... He finally reaches down into his pocket and withdraws a joint and a lighter. Whatever he's got, it's potent, and I can smell it from all the way across the room. He ducks his head down, turning to follow Clint and Carl out of the truck. See ya, guys.
Eat shit, bitch.
Fair. Jeremy makes a concerted effort not to react to the bat's sputtered jab and disappears out the doorway. Brian makes his way over to the door and gently closes it behind him. Slowly, he turns his head back towards us. A light smile crosses his muzzle. As his dark eyes meet Micah's own, his grin widens.
Hey, Micah.
Micah opens his mouth to speak, but nothing comes out. The bat just gawps wordlessly as Brian walks over and socks him in the chest. The little bat doubles over, nearly cracking a skull on the edge of the kitchen countertop on his way down. Jenna gasps.
See, one would think you're prissy. God-loving folks would have taught you some proper manners when around guests.
The bear squints down at the crumpled bat, inspecting him to see if he did any serious damage.
At the very least, Keith shoulda.
Brian leans down, expecting some sort of profanity-laden quip from the bat, but he's met with silence. Micah's furred form heaves, his maw stretching open against the dirty linoleum in a dry retch. The bear continues to watch over him like this, nudging him gently with his foot. No one says anything, and I can see Jenna doing her best not to draw attention to herself. It's a quiet malaise which throbs like my pulse, pounding against the too tight restraints. Finally, he speaks.
That's right, faggot.
The bear begins to rifle through one of the mildewy kitchen cabinets and withdraws a pair of fuzzy white handcuffs. The kind of thing you see out of one of those edgy mall gift shops for bondage play. Regardless of their intended use, I can see the glint of metal beneath the fur, and they seem pretty solid. He fastens one cuff around Micah's thin wrist and opens one of the cabinets beneath the sink. With a quick tug, he jerks the bat's arm into it, to the pipe. There's a sound of clinking metal, and the other cuff is fastened. He must be securing him against the plumbing. Micah resists none of this, fearing further retribution from the bear.
I've had a bit of a scorpion problem under there. Make sure not to get stung.
Brian's about to say something else, but he stops as he spies something out the window.
One moment.
The bear hustles outside without further word. Micah clutches his stomach, saying nothing. Jenna doesn't either. The only sound is the quiet groaning of Leo and the clinking of metal on metal as we fiddle with our restraints. At that moment, I hear a soft mumbling in the distance through the thin walls of the trailer. I freeze and hold my breath. It's a little ways off, and I'm almost positive that it's Duke. The high, weaselly whine mixed with the occasional smoker's cough is unmistakable. It's coming closer, and I can start to make out what he's saying.
Because we've already fucked here. You think we can just let them go and it'll all be fine?
I don't know who he's talking to, but the sound of an accompanying heavy, lumbering steps gives me an idea.
It's worth it, though, if we can figure out what the fuck is going on.
It sounds like they're right up against the trailer now. I can hear them walking around it, towards the small door on the right of the kitchen.
Leo ain't saying shit yet, but I think it might be the otter. He's the one I seen last week.
The footsteps stop in front of the door, and I listen hard, my heart pounding in my chest.
I hope you haven't done anything to him. Beyond what you've already done, that is. Was protecting my property the first time. Haven't done nothing further.
Brian's uncharacteristically high-pitched voice sends a chill up my spine, my fur flaring out with it.
You bet your ass you haven't. If you do any of your fucked up shit to these kids.
I stop breathing, staring at the ends of my feet.
What I'm saying is, we still got a chance to get out of this. What we've done is bad enough, but if we can get him to understand.
They stop talking, and that's when I hear Brian's heavy, labored breath. I'm not breathing at all, worried that they'll be able to hear it, even though they already know I'm here. I let it out with a gasp, and the door suddenly swings open, and Duke comes up the steps, looking around before spotting the lot of us.
Brian, you are one sick fuck.
I tense up as a massive shadow appears behind him, and it feels like the entire trailer tips a bit as Brian makes his way up the same steps. Brian's presence is so imposing and frightening that I don't even notice that Duke is now right next to me. I jump when he sets his hand on my left arm. I jerk my head to look at him, wide-eyed.
Hey, Calm down. We ain't gonna hurt you.
Literally already have.
I know.
Duke's apparent motivations and whatnot just do not line up with how Brian actually behaves.
Yeah, Brian's like supposed to be like the muscle of his plan, but Brian's like, he's a loose cannon. He's got his own intentions that are completely separate.
Brian chuckles and Duke shoots him a look. He turns his attention back to me, softening his expression, at least as much as he can with his scraggly, drug-fucked face.
We just need to get some information from you.
I open my mouth to speak, but all that comes out is a dry squeak. Brian chuckles again and makes his way to stand to my right. I cringe away from him and his stench of old sweat as he grins down at me with his yellow teeth. Despite all the others being here, the two seem especially focused on me.
Brian, get some fucking water.
Brian looks at Duke with a strange face before turning back to the kitchen.
Hey, don't worry about him. I know this thing.
Duke taps the metal collar around my neck with a finger.
Looks bad. We just gotta hold you here for a bit.
Is this like the same scene, copy-pasted almost?
Almost.
Like, it's like the descriptions I think are even the same, and the dialogue's the same as like last time he interrogated us.
The boys are queer. They like it. And the girlies probably just like your wife.
Jenna is silent, daring not to provoke the two. Duke glares at him as Brian comes back from the kitchen with a ceramic mug.
You're a queer too.
Brian visibly bristles and his face loses any of the sick humor it once had. Duke clears his throat.
Things have been happening here, and we want to find out why.
What? Duke furrows his brows like a kid trying to figure out something difficult.
You see, people ain't right in the head here.
No shit. Duke seems to immediately read my thought process because he holds up his hands and shakes his head.
Yeah, I know. What we're doing ain't exactly right in the head either.
Brian gives his dumb chuckle again, but I keep my face averted from him, partly because I really can't stand the smell.
But we're all a little fucked up here. Well, I'm talking about something else. Like what's been going on with the townsfolk. Bad dreams, strange behavior. Sound familiar?
I shift a little as I'm reminded about the past few days. Duke looks genuinely concerned. I look at the weasel's waistband and immediately see the handgun tucked into his pants there.
And I was hoping to stop before any of this happened, but now... everything's gone to shit.
Brian finishes for him, and I can feel him move closer to the platform I'm laying on. Again, I avoid
What?
Aren't we on the wall?
Yeah.
They copy-pasted a little too much. Because we're not on the table.
Oh, yeah, I forgot they said table.
This is the platform. This, I don't think you...
No, it said he's on the wall.
You can't really lay on a wall.
Yeah.
Again, I avoid eye contact, not wanting to provoke him in any way.
Yep, and it's only going to get worse.
Duke just looks at me, like that's all the information I need. I don't know what you're talking about. I see a twitch of irritation in Duke's face, and I hold my breath. I mean, what's happening out there? Duke shakes his head.
What's happening everywhere?
Duke looks back at the window suddenly, his fur standing on end. I look too, but we all see the leaves and branches, the late afternoon sun filtering through them. But all I see. Duke's quiet for a while before he starts speaking again without turning around.
It happened to my granddaddy, my daddy, now it's happening to me.
I close my eyes, wondering if Duke is just as crazy as Brian. If he is, I doubt he even has a clue of what he's doing right now.
Dale's missing. Cynthia drove off into the desert.
Duke turns around to look back at Micah.
Saw your cat friend screeching about on the river road to the north. Heather? She had a little revolver, started pointing at me and telling me to get out of my truck.
Micah's brow furrows slightly, but otherwise he says nothing.
Tried calming her down, but she wasn't having it. Even fired off a shot in the air before taking my keys and heading off towards the Pop's place. Girl was on a warpath, haunted. Thing is, we all got something after us, something bad. Won't let you leave when it starts. What's after you?
I flinch as Brian speaks just above me, leaning down towards my face. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Bullshit.
I flinch again as Duke's concerned demeanor immediately drops away.
Why do you think we came to get you all?
He pauses, like I should actually know the answer.
Sans Micah here, who is already succumbing something fierce to his own demons. Bitch.
Micah mumbles from across the room, and I can see Duke's fur bristle. I feel myself starting to panic again with these two crazy hillbillies looming over my body. I don't know what... Duke slaps me and I gasp in shock.
Hey! You shut your fucking mouth before I stomp your jaw in.
Brian snaps back at Jenna before refocusing his attention on me.
I saw you hanging around this fucking town before you even got here, late at night, lurking around.
I'm still cringing from the slap, and I keep my eyes closed, as if not seeing any of this is going to make it stop.
And then once all your friends get here, all hell breaks loose. You think that's a fucking coincidence?
It's quiet for a moment, and all I can hear is the rush of blood in my ears. Is this really happening? I feel Duke touch my arm again, and I flinch in fear.
Hey.
I feel like he wants me to look at him, so I slowly open my eyes, tears spilling out as I do. The blurry shape of Duke dances in front of me.
I'm not saying you did it, or that you wanted it to happen.
I don't say anything because I still don't know what he's talking about, but I know I can't tell him that.
It's just that you gotta know something. Anything so that we can stop this.
Duke starts to pet my arm and I shiver. Brian is breathing heavily next to me, and a glance at him shows that his expression is more interested now. Almost eager. I think about Leo, slooped over next to me. I want to cry out for him to help. Though what could he do beyond getting himself hurt more? I'm utterly helpless, squirming in my own skin. Duke still hasn't answered my question. It makes no sense that they'd go so far as to kidnap us. But why? Why didn't you just ask us? Why all of this? I lift my hands weakly, making the platform rattle. Duke's face darkens.
Because I've been asking Leo all week what the fuck you guys are doing, and he wouldn't say shit. Saw you all snooping around the Hendricks place, and he attacked me when I confronted him. You just stood there looking out the window with that same condescending look you bunch have always had.
He glances to each of us. Duke stops petting my arm and scratches behind his head.
And, someone told me that you would know.
I stare at him. What? Who?
Someone I know, and it makes sense. Something bad happens, and if you don't fix it, it won't stop coming after you.
I shut my eyes and almost sob.
Says they know, and I thought it had to be Leo or you, considering what we've been seeing these past few weeks.
Duke pauses.
Or maybe one of your other friends.
Literally all he had to go on was the phrase "they know."
Yeah.
I need to guess who they... Great. He looks over toward Jenna. She's silent. I don't know what you're talking about. I wait for another slap, but it doesn't come. I open my eyes again, and Duke is looking back out the window.
We're kind of protecting you, too.
I stare at the back of his head.
Things are getting worse out there, and if we don't figure something out soon, we're all gonna die.
Duke's voice is dead and distant. Brian, though, touches my other arm, and I gasp, shrinking away. He's smirking down at me, looking at my stomach, or crotch, somewhere around there.
Those are different. Brian, stop.
Duke is turned back around, looking over me at the bear.
We're not getting anywhere right now, and I gotta get to town hall.
Even though Duke was the one that hit me, I'm terrified of the thought of being left alone with Brian. Duke sees my face.
Don't worry, Chase. Even though you're lying to us, I don't plan to let this pervert have his way with you.
Brian snorts.
Brian knows what will happen if he does.
Duke gives Brian a cold, callous stare, and this time Brian doesn't give his stupid grin back.
But you better fall in line and think real hard about what you're really doing here, Chase. 'Cause I'll be back.
Duke heads for the door, trying to look over his shoulder.
Just feed them and make sure they don't escape. That's it. And I'll need your keys. What?
Brian snarls.
Heather took my truck, remember? You'll get it back.
Brian seethes through his large black nostrils, and I'm strangely reminded of Leo reacting to Jenna's chiding earlier. But that's my murder mine truck. With a grumble, he fists around in his sweatpants pocket. He takes a brass key from his keychain and pushes it into Duke's outstretched palm.
Thank you.
And with that, Duke briskly disappears out the door, a gold flash of late afternoon light illuminating the dim trailer. Brian and I listen to the weasel's soft, anxious footsteps recede into the distance.
Oh no.
As soon as the sound is gone, Brian stands up. I turn my head in time to see him whirl around and smash his fist into the wall. I jump as much as I can in my restraints before he does it again, this time slamming both of his fists against the wall.
Fucking faggot!
The bear shoves his remaining keys into a drawer on the other side of the kitchen. He exhales loudly, staring at the wall and muttering something I can't quite make out. Brian remains motionless as he does so, unmoving as the minutes pass by. It's unnerving, but a welcome respite from the aggression that he's being taken out on us. There's a window in the corner of the living room area that's mainly covered by an olden wooden bookcase. There's no books in it, just mainly stacks of ashtrays, empty plastic bottles, and old appliance manuals. The surprise here is that he bothers with ashtrays.
That is, you're right, that is a surprise.
However,
Maybe that's why they're on the shelf, because he doesn't use them. They're like, just stacked up because he collects them or something.
He likes to chew on ashtrays.
Yeah. He likes to lick them.
No. However, the top two shelves are littered with little knickknacks. It takes me a second, but I actually recognize a few of them as prizes from Southwestern adventures. I'm reminded of the stuffed griffin I have smushed in my suitcase back in the motel. If only we would have packed up and gone when we had the chance. There's some other keepsakes stuffed back there as well. Lots of stuff from the Blue Diamond Casino on the reservation. Travel cases, poker chips, canvas satchels, and even a mug with a smiling blue diamond and the Meseta war chief headdress. It reads, Chief Daddy!
Chief Daddy.
What? In big bold lettering. What? Just what? Why is it called? Why does it say that?
I don't
Chief
know.
Daddy.
I mean, it worked. It was purchased.
Was Daddy not ruined yet? Like,
Daddy's already cursed.
is Brian a father?
Please no.
The idea seems unlikely.
I hope not. I really hope not.
Brian stands on his tiptoes and peers out the little bit of window still visible on the top of the bookcase. There's a faint popping sound in the distance, like 4th of July fireworks cracking off. Gunshots. I can't imagine why anyone would be celebrating at a time like this. I think the daddy reward is like a keepsake from someone he killed.
Maybe.
They're probably not fireworks.
Yeah.
Brian flinches, a soft frown crossing his burly features.
Huh.
He hums to himself, brow furrowed as he takes a seat in a faded corduroy recliner, turning it in place to face us. His eyes shift over to me for a moment, and it's like he wants me to say something. I swallow, my mouth dry as a bone as I begin to speak. Do you think... You think those were gunshots?
Worried about your friends?
Yeah.
Don't be. You should be the worried ones.
He smiles a big, toothy grin, composed of what few teeth he has remaining. Oh. There's something familiar about his face now. My mind flashes with images of that smile peering at me from the end of my bed. Could it have been one of the countless night terrors I'd seen when my body was still frozen with sleep? Unable to move, just like I am now. Except this is real. His gaze shifts to the rack and mirror beside me, and he's quiet for a while. He suddenly smacks his lips.
Keith. He truly was the best of us. Yeah, Keith.
That's me.
That's you. Got me wondering what he'd do if he was around now. Let us go.
Micah's quick-fire response elicits a solemn grunt from Brian.
You know damn well that's what he'd do. Golden rule.
Oh wait.
So I should hit you with a wrench too then. Got one around here somewhere.
The bat promptly stops talking as the bear starts looking around the cluttered mess of his trailer. Brian eventually stops, snarking to himself in a strange, nasally fashion. Fucking psycho.
So you want to talk about Keith, huh? Well, alright.
Micah doesn't speak this time, letting the bear mull about.
First you gotta understand that I see things. I reckon everybody here does. Just a lot of folk don't like to admit it, or don't have it as bad. When I see things, I see it. I smell it, feel it, hear it, taste it. All 6 senses and what have you. When I was a kid in Peyton, I didn't see shit. Even though I had a pretty fucked up childhood. My mom left when I was 6 because my dad was a piece of shit. But you know she's a piece of shit for leaving me with him. Anyway, you know where my dad told me she'd gone?
No one says anything until Brian turns to look back down at Micah expectantly.
I don't know.
Brian cackles and it sends a chill up my spine.
That aliens had taken her.
I press myself deeper into the wall, wishing I could just disappear in between the wood paneling.
I think he must have been drunk or high or both. But it stuck with me, you know.
I look away, trying to make myself look small and avoid any unnecessary eye contact with them.
Then, when I was a teenager, I got myself a boyfriend. Well, more of a fuck buddy. We kinda hated each other.
I can feel him looking between Leo and I now, and I have a feeling the bear is aware of our former relationship.
At least, it felt like that sometimes. Fucker wouldn't leave me alone, no matter how much he was saying I disappointed him. Gotta be my best self or whatever. He talked too much, but he was a good fuck and was the only faggot I knew, so I came here every other week or so to fuck him.
Just notice the cursor's been floating in the middle of the screen.
Sorry, everyone. Things got a little better between us, and he convinced me to help him out with restoring this old bar off of 65. Was a complete shithole, but he loved his vices. Booze, drugs, fucking, and peddling all that was like a dream to him. But then something weird happened on one of my trips out here when he wasn't around. I remember the moon was red that night because of the forest fires out west. And I kept looking at it, and that's when I saw a flying saucer, like one straight out of a cartoon with lights and a dome thing on top. I couldn't believe it, but there it fucking was, floating through the sky, and you know, even though it looked stupid as fuck, I knew I saw it, and it was fucking evil. I just knew it.
Brian finally looks down at me again.
That night, and almost every night after, I'd wake up and couldn't move, and aliens would be around my bed. And there was this one alien that I knew was my mom. She didn't look like my mom. She looked like an alien. But I just knew it was her. And she'd do these things to me. Sometimes to my mouth and eyes and nose. But usually to my dick. Torture me. And it felt fucking real.
Brian chuckles, still staring at Leo and I.
Fucked me up good. And I blame my boyfriend for it. For bringing me to Echo. Because I was sure that's where the evil came from. I outed him that year. Skull fucked him when his mom was still home and got him caught. So he had to leave town because of it.
Oh. Well, that's probably Keith.
Yeah.
And how his mom found out by walking on this.
Not something I'd want to walk in on. Nothing with Brian involved. It's something I'd want to walk in on.
No. Micah's lightly fuzzed face seems to lose some color to it at that, his wide eyes shifting to the linoleum beneath him. The massive bear shakes his head.
Didn't stop the dreams, though. So, he just left us all behind then? Oh, no.
Brian straightens up in his chair, it creaking loudly.
He stuck around the res on account of him being Meseta and all. Found him at a gay bar. What does that mean? It means I have an idea.
Brian stands up from his seat and disappears into one of the back bedrooms. He calls back to us.
Something to pass the time with. Was saving this for Clint, but he's been keeping scarce lately.
He comes back with what looks like a step stool, a medical satchel, and a whip? Upon closer inspection, it's not a whip, but a noose with little bits of metal embedded around the edges.
Oof.
Razor blades. A noose with fucking razor blades. What the fuck? Brian gets to work, tying it up to a conspicuous hook on the kitchen ceiling. He's incredibly quick with tying the knot, like he's done this 1,000 times before. I can feel my heart pounding in my ears, each blade on the noose glinting with what little light there is in the trailer. I try to crane my neck and look at Jenna, but I'm still having trouble seeing her. Brian smiles down at Micah, bending down and taking the bat's cuffs off just as quickly.
What the fuck are you doing? Shut up. It'll be okay. Be calm. Don't struggle.
Brian's voice reminds me of children's show presenters with his squeaky, reassuring cadence. The context of his words makes it deeply unsettling, and I struggle against my collar restraint whenever he's turned away. I have to get out of here. Brian sets down the stool squarely beneath where the noose is hanging.
Step up onto the stool. You're short enough so this will actually work. You're fucking crazy.
Micah reels back away from him, but Brian grabs him by the hand. He starts bending it inward, and the bat squeals in pain.
Okay. You either do what I say or I'm gonna start breaking every joint in your body, alright?
Micah continues to shriek, finally wrenching free after nodding.
Okay. Put your head through the noose.
I can see the turmoil in Micah's face, 1,000 fight-or-flight responses running through his head.
The inside of the noose itself don't got any blades, just the outside, so you can't be grabbing it.
Micah stares through the hole in front of him.
Do it!
He's about to grab for the bat's hand again, but Micah shoves his head through just in time after stepping up on the stool.
I'm in.
It seems like it'd be hard to get his head in with his ears.
Yeah, I press to tuck him down.
Oh, we're getting dark. Ooh.
Uh-oh.
The bear reaches up and tightens the noose more firmly around the bat's neck, proud of himself as he does so. He's cinching it hard until it's clear the bat is struggling to breathe. With a smile, he reaches down and tugs off one of the legs of the little step stool. Brian chuckles to himself as the bat teeters, Micah nearly kicking the stool away. He just barely manages to keep himself upright, with the tip of his toes catching the edge. His cheeks flare as more of his weight is having to be held aloft by his neck, the strain causing his neck veins to bulge. He gasps like a fish for breath, swaying his hips from side to side, from one side to the other to get a more solid standing position. I can see him resisting the urge to grab the noose, an act that would surely strip his fingers to the bone. Brian, meanwhile, chuckles to himself, tickled deeply by the display.
There you go.
Brian is turned away from me now, but even from this angle, it's clear he's rubbing himself through his sweatpants. I'm petrified, wanting to scream out to make him stop, but not daring to make a sound. This is what Duke was warning Brian not to do, and he did it anyway. I close my eyes, praying to see that weasel again, to put a stop to all this.
Hey, don't think I forgot you all.
When I open my eyes again, he's looking directly at me.
Well, you two at least. I mean, given a choice of a bunch of guys and one girl, what kind of queer would pick the girly?
He says the word queer with distaste, the bear beginning to reach into his little satchel. He looks to Jenna as he pulls out what looks like a long spool of string.
The others tell me you were a bit of a bitch anyway. At least that's what your brother said.
I keep expecting Jenna to start speaking, talking him down, full psychoanalysis mode, like all those thriller movies, but right now she's completely silent. Leo stirs slightly beside me, mumbling something incoherent. Brian has scissors now, and he kneels down in front of us. I begin to feel faint as he points the edge of them towards me with a smile. Instead of cutting me, he begins snipping along the side of my shorts and underwear, cutting up to the waistband. What are you doing? Micah teeters in the kitchen, letting out a blubbering, choking sound as he struggles for breath.
Saw you a few weeks ago. You had no eyes. Heard you talking to the empty rail yard. Saying that you two need to stay close. Thinking I should oblige that request.
What? The eyeless chase? The thing we saw earlier? Leo stirs some as I shout, shifting slightly as Brian does the same to his pant leg.
Don't worry. I won't get your bits out.
He reaches into his little medical bag and pulls out a suturing needle.
I was thinking that's what he was gonna do.
He's gonna eat us.
Yeah, Junior. It's one of my favorite stories. What's the story called again? It's called like...
The Incident.
Sure, that's not what it's called.
It's the something incident, isn't it? It's just like I don't know, it just starts happening and everyone's like, what the fuck?
I thought it was like Always Together or something.
Maybe.
I think you're supposed to shave the fur before you start doing this, but well.
No, please, you don't need to do this. The thing you saw, it wasn't me. I've seen it too. Brian blinks, canting his head slightly.
Well, I figured that much, that he wasn't real. You still have your eyes for now, and that goatee.
He's pushing our legs together now, and my heart feels like it's in my throat. My vision starting to blur.
Don't squirm now, or it turns to joint breaking time. And I can always stitch other things together.
Oh God, no. The needle hits me first, at the mid-thigh. I cry out, squeezing my fists against my chest. I want to deck him, punch him, do anything to make him stop. I yell so loud I slobber onto the front of my shirt, tears once again welling in my eyes. I can feel the metal pierce through my skin, far too deep as it tears through muscle and tugs back out again. Leo begins to writhe slightly as it goes through his leg, though he doesn't awake.
That's one.
Stop! I start to feel faint as blood pools from the new holes in my thigh, though the needle though the needle re-entering promptly wakes me back up. Fuck!
2. Stop.
Jenna squeaks from the corner of the room, her voice unlike I've ever heard her before. Quiet. So much so that I don't know if Brian even heard her.
3.
Micah gasps, wobbling erratically as blood drips from his left hand. He must have gripped the rope for a second and cut himself.
Don't fall, kid.
Brian calls to Micah before looking back. He has a lurid gaze as he stares directly into my eyes, pushing the needle in again. So deep, I'm sure it scrapes the bone. And it's like my whole body has been lit on fire. Snot dribbles down my nose. I can't fucking take it anymore. Brian keeps counting. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Leo's writhing has gotten more intense, and each tug of his leg spreads the puncture wounds more. I can't take it. Something begins to move in the corner of the room, in the closet beside the bedroom. I can't tell if it's just my blurred vision or whether the door is actually opening. In the kitchen, the stool tips over and Micah is suddenly dangling freely.
Oh, God.
More choked gurgles escape the increasingly red-faced bat. His arms begin to flail, wildly at first, then in a more coordinated rhythm. It takes me a moment to realize he's batting his wings. He flaps as hard as he can, and finally it looks like he manages to get a gulp of air. His hovering is erratic, never enough to keep him completely suspended. Brian peers over his shoulder, eyebrows raised slightly.
Help him!
Brian ignores her.
Would you look at that?
We're 3 out of 3 on there being a hanging in every route.
Yeah, it's true. He can fly.
Technically 2 in Carl's route. 3 in Carl's route.
Yes?
No,
just 2.
2.
2, but one of them's like is shown several times.
Yeah. That's the one that happened in the past and the one that happens to Jenna?
Yeah, it's Jenna.
I mixed that up with the because the one with Clint is Leo's route.
Yeah.
The exertion is clearly taxing Micah, and he's still having trouble breathing. His face continues to turn an unnatural hue. He can't keep this up.
Help him.
Out of the corner of my eye, the closet door shifts open further. There's something inside. Someone.
Oh no.
They're a reddish-white color, half cloaked in shadow. Eyes wide, mouth open. It moves like there's a strobe light behind it. Its motion's choppy and unnatural. It's like it's not moving at all, but rather a series of images projected in front of my eyes, changing every second. And each second it gets closer. Jenna's speaking in a weird voice, saying help him.
Yeah.
She's like
she's summoning her weird little demon.
Her like sleep paralysis demon is like coming in. It looks to be as tall as Brian, impossibly slender, with arms and legs that look warped and burnt. It has no eyes, no mouth, just holes. Next thing I know, it's in the kitchen, and Micah just drops. The bat hits the floor with a heavy thud, the cut noose still around his neck. Brian sees it now, too. He reels back just as it begins to approach him.
They're real.
All he can say before is all that he can say before the bear is yanked about with immense, violent force, his body bending like a flicked rubber band. The contents of his pockets, one of his pant legs, and a small chunk of flesh smack against the kitchen wall. The rest of him goes flying out the window, along with the figure. My mind immediately thinks back to when I was a kid. I had seen plenty of stuff, lots of horrible things, but the psychiatrist had said that it was normal, that sometimes kids hallucinate. Not like this, though. There's glass scattered across the stained carpet. Bloodstains dapple the turquoise, polka-dotted drapes, swaying slightly in the new breeze that comes through the broken window. This is real, right? Past all reasonable doubt, it has to be. The shock of the situation has eclipsed the pain in my leg, though that brief respite fades quickly. It's wretched and niggling, like being stung by 20 little bees each couple of seconds. Rivulets of Leo and I's blood pools together and runs between our connected thighs. I writhe against my restraints, head spinning and heart pounding. Every base animalistic neuron in my brain is firing to flee the situation, to make the throbbing stop, and just find safety. But there's nothing I can do but gasp for breath. One eye on the window and the other on the struggling, bleeding silhouette of Micah. My vision blurs, and when it refocuses, the bat is up on his knees, yellow eyes wide and bloodshot. He says something. His voice is high-pitched and quaking, utterly indiscernible. At least to me, right now. He scrambles on his hands and knees, coughing and wheezing while yanking open several of Brian's kitchen drawers. Dirty silverware, cooking utensils, and faded yellow receipts shower the floor. The ruckus is immense, and I'm sure the thing outside hears it. That is, if it's even capable of hearing. He pulls another drawer completely out of its socket, an adornment of bottle openers, chip clips, and twist ties clatters forth. Panting out ragged breaths, his fingers grab something glinting and silver from the new pile. His eyes widen. Keys. For a moment his gaze trails to the door, then back to us. He coughs again, swearing some obscenity that I can't fully make out. Scampering along from the kitchen to the other side of the room, he begins using the key on Jenna's restraint. There's a satisfying click, and I can hear Jenna gasp.
Thank you.
She whispers. Micah wastes no time, moving back to my sight line for a moment to reach Leo beside me. You... Leo moans, seemingly aware of the bat's presence as a large paw reaches out to touch the bat's soft mane of white fur. Micah stops for a moment, blinking some at the still definitely out of it wolf. Leo's arm goes limp again, the bat exhaling a coarse breath, trying to steady his own shaking hand so that he can unlock the wolf's restraint. Jenna quickly heads to the kitchen, grabbing a knife from the torn-out cutlery drawer.
I'll get you out of this in a sec. Just don't squirm, okay?
He looks at me, her turquoise eyes wide and glistening. I'll be fine, Leo murmurs. Jenna doesn't even look at him as she brings the blade between our thighs. With a little slice, she managed to cut through the first stitch, and a fresh runnel of blood leaks from the punctured points. It's as if the wound is hissing at me, my ears ringing as I clutch my fists against my chest. Don't scream. Don't scream. Ugh. I whimper as the knife nicks the second, but doesn't quite break the string. Instead, it tugs up, widening the piercing and tearing at the skin. It'd be a good time to have those scissors.
Yeah, scissors would be good.
Where'd they go? Leo stirs, his fists clenching as his half-lidded eyes try to focus on Jenna. Ugh. He bares his fangs briefly, trying to stand up. This pulls harder at the stitching, and I can't tell what will give first, the stitches or the flesh on my legs. I cry out between grit teeth, Jenna trying to pin the wolf back down.
Stop moving. You're only making it worse.
Jenna tries to cut the stitching faster now. She gets one rung, 2, 3. Fuck off of me! I look down and see Jenna's blade tip had sunk into the wolf's thigh, even more blood trickling from the fresh wound.
Just be still.
I've never heard Jenna so tense. Leo only writhes more, reeling against his restraints with such ferocity that Micah can't undo the lock.
God, just fucking give it to me.
The bat stops fiddling with the lock and extends a hand out to Jenna, the fennec turning to look at him. She doesn't move to give him the knife, but she does loosen her grip. Micah doesn't hesitate and plucks it from her with the deftness of a pickpocket. Gingerly, he places the flat of his free hand against Leo's chest, and with the other makes a quick slice between our legs in one motion. The pressure keeping us together is suddenly gone, and I feel I can freely pull my leg away from his. The pain is still immense, but nowhere near as bad. Ugh.
You are so fucking lucky.
I look up at the small bat as he moves to unlock Leo's restraint. If I'm lucky, I certainly don't feel like it. Yeah, so are you. The bat lets out a sharp exhale as Leo is freed. Surprisingly, he stands right up, albeit less than steadily. It's still not entirely clear that he knows where he is, blood still running down the side of his leg. Micah takes a cautionary step back, though the dazed wolf doesn't appear to be outwardly hostile towards him. In fact, the two meet each other's gazes for a moment, and Leo sobers slightly. What? He mumbles, bracing himself with a large arm against the wall. As Micah shifts his freeing efforts to me, Jenna nimbly steps around the broken glass and makes her way to Brian's fridge. She pulls open the door, tucking out various foodstuffs in plastic bags. Finally, she pulls out several bottles of water and hurries back over. Click. I gasp, holding my throat as I jerk my head forward. Big gulps of air enter my lungs, with a refreshing sensation unlike anything I've ever felt. My whole body buzzes with a mixture of pain and relief. Jenna quickly hands me a bottle of water, and I don't hesitate to start chugging it. Well, I try to, and I realize the cap is still on. After rectifying my error, I can see clearly the frazzled look on Jenna's eyes. Her usual cool demeanor gone, and in its place, a deeply unsettling visage that matches how I feel. That's another word that he likes. Visage? Yeah.
Yeah.
She briefly looks over to her side, toward the broken window, then back to me.
Chase,
Micah takes 2 of her water bottles, giving one to Leo and one to himself. That thing. Jenna nods.
Yeah.
Was that the thing you mentioned to me? On the hike? Her fur bristles, the fox finding the notion incredibly uncomfortable.
I don't know what that was. Something the authorities will investigate later, I suppose. So, I wasn't fucking seeing shit? That really was some burnt motherfucking leper out of that sick fuck's closet?
Motherfucker leaping.
Oh, leaping.
Micah squeezes the bottle, splashing his face with the cold water.
Must have been 7 feet tall at least.
A burned man? Is that all he was? Just another victim of Brian's cruel tortures, stashed away until now? Do you think he's still outside?
Maybe?
Jenna responds in a hushed tone.
I doubt Brian's in much of a threatening state, though.
Yeah. We all seem to be fixated on the broken window, though none of us are jumping at the chance to investigate more closely. No one except for Leo. I glance over and see the big wolf stumbling forward, arms outstretched. His movements are jittery, robotic, his maw hanging open slightly. His eyes still aren't fully open, yet he grasps the windowsill and peers into the darkness. He stays there, motionless. Seconds pass, at least 10, and finally he turns to face us. Never seen that before, Leo mumbles.
You see anything?
Yeah. Micah stares at him, bug-eyed.
Well, what did you fucking see?
Red. Micah sets his water bottle down, picking back up his knife and the contents of Brian's pockets.
Alright, fuck this. We're getting out of here. If not, that person we totally all just saw wanted to do us in. If that person we totally all just saw wanted to do us in, it would have done so. I just want to get a car, get some distance from this place, call the cops on a payphone.
He furrows his brow at something on the ground before picking it up and shoving it in his shorts.
And spend the rest of the night cooped up in one of those 24-hour pancake houses where the waitstaff is always around to watch you.
Carl. Got the state of him. Leo blurts this out like a spoken belch, his disoriented eyes seemingly swimming in their sockets as he looks at no one in particular. The notion swells up a knot in my stomach. First fear, then guilt. Carl had been subjected to this for days. And maybe he knows more about the thing in the closet.
That's a job for the police.
She says this with an initial reassuring tone, though she falters after a moment.
Though, those gunshots earlier. We would have heard police sirens by now. I'm assuming the phone service internet is still down. So, let's find a fucking car then. We drive to Peyton, rat out those murderer-abiding fucks I call friends, and never look back.
Jenna sighs, closing her eyes for a moment, then nodding. We know where Carl is, though. He's at Heather's house. Apparently. Unless he's not.
Well, yeah, but he's with Clint or whatever.
Oh, yeah, who has a gun.
Yep. Yeah. That's the sound of an idea as any. Let's go. I'm not seeing any car keys here. Pretty sure Duke has his ride.
Got to save Carl. Now. Leo interjects, and Jenna just looks at him, dumbfounded.
Oh, go right ahead, Leo.
She speaks up, gesturing towards the door flippantly.
We'll be in Peyton. You go right ahead and tell us how that goes,
Leo blinks slowly before again slowly meandering to the door. Wait, what? I try to stop him, wincing at the pain in my leg.
Oh, Jesus.
I manage to grab his fur, and that staggers him enough to stop for a moment.
I wasn't serious.
Leo, please. Come on. We'll stick together and get this taken care of. Carl. I can feel him pulling away, so I try to think of something to get him to stop. Leo, man, we need you. I need you. I squeeze his paw, briefly, just enough to show him that I'm here, as his eyes close once again. Like a lost child, he squeezes back. The physical contact feels nice, though after being stitched to him, I'm relieved when he lets go.
You two, good to move?
I take a tentative step, and Jenna takes me by the arm in case I fall. The pain is dizzying, and I have an overwhelming urge to just down a bottle of ibuprofen and crawl in a corner. But I definitely can still walk. I'll manage. Jenna smiles faintly at me.
I'll help him.
Leo, in all his stupid glory, says nothing as he pulls open the front door and steps outside into the dark. Micah steps up beside us, his skinny arms folded tightly over his chest.
Okay. Urgent care for him, and then the pancake house.
I want Pancake House now.
Yeah.
Let's go to a Pancake House and never think about Friday ever again. Because now it's...
Oh,
wait,
that was
Sunday?
Saturday, yeah?
Oh, it was Saturday.
How about we just don't think about this whole week?
Wait. I'm all mixed up now on the timing.
Well, I think we got knocked out. Maybe we were there for a day.
Was the breakfast that we didn't have on Friday?
I think so.
Maybe. Anyway. Whew. Big long scene of bad.
Bad.
We've added another monster to the list.
We already knew that one was there. It just hadn't like made like an actual involved appearance yet.
Yeah, well, until now it was just Jenna's supposed like sleep paralysis demon that there was not much in-universe reason to think it was real yet, but it definitely felt set up.
Did they even ever say it was a sleep paralysis demon for her? Because I think she just was saying she would see it as a kid.
Yeah, but
like around her house.
That's just how Chase sees things.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Chase just sees things when he's dreaming, but
yeah,
and he just has sleep paralysis. But I get the impression that's just the monster Jenna's seen like her whole childhood, because she just mentioned seeing it walking around her house and stuff.
Pro tip: don't live in Echo.
That's a good pro tip.
It's a very bad idea.
They all should listen
to
that.
Pretty fucked up.
Listen to Keith.